Under the Skin is a sci-fi horror thriller that came out in 2013. It's written and directed by Jonathan Glazer and stars Scarlett Johansson. So Under the Skin is a $50 patron request from a good man, Brandon Smith. And Under the Skin is a film that I have talked about here and there on this channel, but I've only talked about it in, I believe, a top 10 best A24 video that I made some years ago. And I think I also talked about it like in the top 10 favorite films list or some shit. But it's a film that I've never actually dedicated its own video to, and I was really grateful that Brandon Smith requested this film because it's finally given me the excuse to do that, and it's a film that really deserves it because it's a film that I think is incredibly special to me because I have such a long history with it, and it really impacted just kind of the way that I appreciated and view films in a certain way. So Under the Skin is a film that I saw pretty much right when it came out. I didn't experience it in theaters or anything, but basically as soon as it came to video, I rented it and I watched it, and I didn't really know much about it. The only thing that I knew about it was that it stars Scarlett Johansson, and it's like a sci-fi horror film. And I remember my experience with this film incredibly well, because it's a film that truly challenged me in so many ways, but it didn't challenge me so intensely to where I felt like it was just a difficult film to watch. Because, yeah, it challenged me, but at the same time, I was totally engrossed and totally hypnotized by this film. And I remember at the time thinking that I've never seen a film that's quite like this one. And now, after rewatching it, I still think to myself, I've never seen a film quite like this one. But it is a film that I have seen many times. Because basically after the first time I saw it, I was pretty much obsessed with it. I couldn't get it out of my head. So throughout the years, I gave it multiple rewatches, but it's been a long stretch, like at least a good 3 or 4 years, to where I haven't given it a rewatch. So the most recent rewatch that I gave it a few days ago in preparation for this review, it was really interesting, and I feel like it was almost my favorite experience of it, because I didn't feel nearly as challenged by it when I did watch it the first time. It felt like I was just able to relax and just experience this film in all of its glory. Because this is a film that truly encapsulates everything that I love about the art of filmmaking. It's a film that takes you on an unforgettable journey, but it's a journey that's incredibly chilling and unsettling. It's a journey that is incredibly thought-provoking. It's a film that just delivers this cinematic experience that you really can't shake off. And it's because of this experience that I feel like it's sometimes difficult to put into words about how I feel about this film and what makes it special, because I feel like a lot about what makes this film special is through the experience that it gives you. And the filmmaker Jonathan Glazer is able to deliver this kind of experience to the audience because of the route that he goes in filmmaking. This is a film and a story that is purely told through aesthetic means. And that's something that I absolutely adore and appreciate in filmmaking. It's a film that's able to express and convey so much emotion, so many thematic elements. It's able to express its atmosphere or tone, whether it's pure bliss or just absolute dread, through its aesthetics. But what I love so much about this film is that it's so incredibly effective that I feel like your casual viewer who has never been exposed to anything like this, so kind of like myself when I first watched this film, even though I wouldn't say I was that casual, but I feel like even somebody who hasn't been exposed to any level of art filmmaking would be able to get through this film and be able to kind of view film in a different kind of way, because even though not every casual viewer is going to be able to get through it in the same way, it definitely sets up a medium for somebody to get extremely sucked into the atmosphere that they would be willing to have their patience tested in the way that this film does. Because again, it's a film that is pretty unforgiving with, how slow it moves and how long certain takes go on for a very extended period of time. Because I've talked to people who don't really watch art house films at all, and they've seen this film, and they tell me that was one of the most chilling and scariest films that I've ever seen in my entire life. And to me, that's incredibly special because, again, it goes back to how just effective aesthetic storytelling can be. And to me, that's one of the many things that makes this such a powerhouse of a film. And I remember on first viewing, I'm going to be honest, I was a bit perplexed by this film in terms of what certain characters were and like what exactly happened in some aspects of the story. But now it just seems incredibly straightforward. Like, in my honest opinion, this is actually not a very ambiguous film. This is a film that's not really that open to interpretation at all. It's actually an incredibly linear and straightforward kind of film, but it's a film that still, even though it's straightforward, it forces the viewer to kind of put the story and the characters together. But what is true about the film is that it's incredibly unforgiving in terms of how it expresses and relays information to the audience. Whether it's about the characters or just the narrative in general, it truly forces the audience to interpret the images that it's giving you and put the pieces together yourself. And I love that about the film because it doesn't spoil the audience with, an excess of information or information that it feels like the viewer couldn't be able to figure out on their own. And I love that because it kind of trains the audience member to think a little harder when it comes to interpreting an image. And I'm truly thankful that films like this exist because it reminds everybody what makes filmmaking as an art medium special. And it's that it's able to express emotion and meaning and plot information and character information. It's able to express a range of information and emotions to the audience through the images and through its aesthetic and visual means. And with all that being said, I haven't even talked about the score. Score is arguably one of the better things about this film, even though everything else is also magnificent. But the score, honestly, probably one of the best scores I've ever heard in my entire life. It's able to encapsulate emotions of just pure dread that makes you feel incredibly uneasy. But then it also is able to achieve this incredibly blissful type of sound that's apparent in the track Love. Love is probably my favorite track in the entire score. It's one of those tracks that make you feel like you could die while listening to it and be perfectly happy and fine with it. Micah Levy, who's the composer, is able to just achieve this kind of emotion within you by incorporating these sounds. And it just hits the tone of the atmosphere and the emotions just right. Huge props to Micah Levy for this because it's one of the better scores that I've ever heard in my entire life. It's just one of those films where there's never a dull moment. Every scene in this film, to me, is absolutely memorable. Obviously, some are a bit more memorable than others, whether it's the opening scene or the seductive entrapment scenes, or just the scenes where Scarlett Johansson's character is just observing human life and you get this beautiful layered composition of what seems like thousands of images on top of each other, or the scenes that involve the deformed man who, by the way, huge shout out to Adam Pearson who plays the deformed man. That's not special effects. He genuinely looks like that, and he's somebody that was willing to be on board for the film, and I think it just takes a lot of courage for him to take on a role like this, especially a role that obviously, centers around the fact that he is a deformed person. It has a huge, powerful context to the film and is incredibly crucial to what the film is going for. And also the ending to this film is obviously just like one giant, powerful sequence. Truly unforgettable stuff. All of these moments, not only are they just aesthetically beautiful in terms of the way the score is composed with them and the way that the camera is framed, and obviously, everything else has to do with aesthetically pleasing stuff, whether it's production or the color. But it also sends incredibly powerful messages to the audience. And this film is about a lot of different things that obviously tackle humanity and the human condition. But three things that really stood out to me the most have to do with beauty, sexuality, and loneliness. And just not only how obsessed we are by these things, but how deeply affected we are by them. So with all that being said, I'm going to give the masterpiece that is Under the Skin a 10 out of 10. There's just no way in hell that I wasn't going to give this film a 10 out of 10. There's nothing about this film that I personally didn't like. Sure, I could really force some nitpicks here and there, but overall, this film, again, truly encapsulates everything that I love and adore about filmmaking. and it also just delivers an experience that I swear is unlike any experience that you'll get with any other film. And I haven't seen any Jonathan Glazer film besides Under the Skin. I hear great things about everything that he's made, including Sexy Beast, but I just haven't seen them yet. I don't know what you guys think about him as a filmmaker and what you think about his filmography, but I would love to hear your thoughts about this film and also about any other films that you may have seen from him. So that's all I got to say about Under the Skin. I know this film was talked about to death, so I apologize if I didn't offer anything refreshing to the film. But if you still really enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.